Hello, everyone. Welcome to HangarReady. How's everybody doing this fine Saturday evening? Hopefully, some of you got to watch part of CitizenCon, at least the non-boring parts. And with me tonight is clearly last but not least, Jolly. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well. Thank you very much for asking.
And I'm all confused because we had lots of streaming problems getting on tonight. So we're running about 10 minutes late. Turin, how are you doing this evening?
Fantastic, thanks.
Numidius, what about you? You having a good time up there?
Doing great, man.
Great. Soulhawk, it's been a long time since you've been able to grace us with your presence. How you doing, buddy?
Certainly has. I'm doing good. Happy to be back.
And for his debut on the official HangarReady podcast is Frack. Hey, Frack, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
And Frack, for those of you that did not watch some of the Fighter Mafia's podcasts that colleague Josh ran, Frack is our senior director of fleet security and our guru combat pilot. So, of all things combat. I'd like to do a couple special thanks real quick to our producer and our production assistant. Go ahead and hold on. She's got to pull it up and wave. Yep. So, my wife and my daughter are helping us tonight. It's been kind of a rush to put, somebody's getting in trouble later. Okay. So anyhow, back onto the thing now that I'm grinning from ear to ear. I'd also like to give a special thanks out to two new team leads in Atlas Defense Industries, Stavler and Grinnin Fossil, who both helped us immensely by putting together a lot of notes, a lot of screenshots and everything from today's CitizenCon to help us get ready for the show. So I've got a couple of things here that I noted real quick before we move on. First, it started on time for the first time ever, to my recollection. Do any of you guys remember it ever starting on time?
No.
Before? I think this is it in 8 or 9, 10 years of this. Opening with the original Kickstarter video, that was cool. It looks like they've spent a lot of money rebuilding a fully functional bar area in a Connie Phoenix. Looked amazing, but I can only imagine how much it cost. Although they definitely need to work on learning how to lav up people that are going to sit and scratch their chest. And last but not least, there were over 27,000 people watching on Twitch at the beginning. So, I mean, and then it went down from there. But was a really good, well-watched CitizenCon. So, Jolly, do you mind kind of running us through what were the different segments that they published for us?
They published out 7 different segments that we're going to cover. And keep in mind, I'll get to the 8th, which they didn't talk about. But overall, the concept was to go over planetary pyro, more information on pyro. Bear in mind, last CitizenCon received a good amount of information. This is giving us more information, which is appreciated. A design brief, investigations, primarily a new mission for us to do. When it'll come out, we'll wait and see, but it looks interesting. It might be a really good mission for somebody who's got just an Aurora or a Mustang to make some credits and have fun playing the game at the same time. So you need a super capable ship to do these. That should help out folks a little bit, especially new players into the game itself. Third segment was the new Underground, which I was pretty impressed by. I called it a carrier on the ground and under the ground. It was really good, and we'll talk about that if we get a chance to. The Need for Speeds, that one is probably one of the biggest changes I believe will happen in the future. We'll wait and see. Lorville redo. Bear in mind, I loved Lorville when it first came out. I made it basically my home planet. I'm glad to see that they're going to rework it. I'm a little concerned about some of the stuff that's coming with it, but it should work out pretty well. Like I'll probably hit a building now when I'm coming in a dust storm in the middle of the night, but it's probably not.
Definitely.
Power play. Engineers will now matter, and so that's going to be interesting. And talking ships, 2952, I won't add too much to that, but they've got new stuff out there, and obviously new ships available and a new ship and a vehicle available to purchase today. That's all I got.
Okay. Well, and the problem that we ran into with this show is there's just too much to cover in a single show. So we're going to try to get through what we see as the big ones this week, and then we're going to run another show next Saturday at 8:00 p.m., same time, same place, to cover the rest, because we think all of it was important information. But there's some information that we think is just hot off the presses that we want to talk about tonight. And with that, I'm going to toss it over to Frack, who is our resident combat pilot extraordinaire, and talk to us about the need for multiple speeds and what that's actually going to mean for us as it appears they're going to start rolling this out in 4.0.
Yeah, welcome to master modes. As they explained in the beginning, they have been trying to tackle the speed issue probably since the beginning of alpha. And I'll admit that I was a little bit down on this idea when the presentation first started, and I've kind of come around as I've watched it multiple times and taken really close looks at the screens that they showed and all of that. But, part of what triggered me was I think it was based on kind of a false premise from the beginning of that they think that fights routinely devolve to jousting. And I think that's true of beginner pilots, but anybody can go watch any of the high quality, highly trained pilots, and those are not joust fights. So at some level, I think they were trying to solve a problem that would solve itself over time. That said, it's coming. So I took a good look at how that might impact us and our training. But let's start with what it is. So essentially what they've done is broken flight into two modes. The first one is still called SCM, but they've relabeled it standard control mode. And that is as if you took your ship today and speed limited it to SCM. The ship's going to fly exactly the same. Weapons, shields, capacitor system, missiles, countermeasures, all of that. But you're locked at that speed. You can exceed that speed with boost, which works the same way that it does now, which means that it's a consumable. Looking at and granted, as they tune this, the numbers are subject to change, but they were using a Gladius, and looking at the video, SCM appeared to be about 221, and under boost, it hit 475, and it hit it pretty quickly, faster than it would today, I think, if you boosted from SCM. So during that period of time that you have juice in your boost, you're going to be able to kick your speed up to as much as 475. If you need to go faster than that, the only way to do it is to go into the second mode, which is quantum control mode. And quantum control mode now has basically 3 speeds. What you would today would be your maximum ship speed, which is going to be somewhere around 1,200 meters per second. The 300i that they showed hit just under 14, and that ship right now is speed limited at 1188. So you can just simply fly forward to that maximum ship speed. There's also a new mode called Quantum Boost, which allows you to jump at about 1/10 quantum speed in a straight line. And it's a little mini game where you have to kind of steer your ship and keep the destination centered to keep you from falling out of that mode. But with about a 50,000 kilometer limit, it'll allow you to jump to a destination you're trying to get to at significantly higher speed than you would fly to it today. And then the third mode is traditional quantum travel. The downside to this mode is that as soon as you switch into it, all of your combat systems are turned off. Your shields drop, your guns don't work, your missiles don't work, your capacitor system doesn't work, your boost doesn't work, and your countermeasures don't work. So you have to make a decision now on when you're going to switch into that mode. And if you do it in combat, it needs to be a very carefully selected moment. The spool up to quantum, if it's working the way it appears in the video, appears to be about 8 seconds. What we don't know is if you can go past that SCM speed in regular flight during that spool up time. If you can, it does give you an opportunity to extend while you wait for that timer to kick down before you can either quantum boost or boost. But it's going to put you in an extremely vulnerable position, both on the front end, and the bigger issue is on the other end. Because all of us now, when we quantum travel, when you land at the end of that quantum jump, you aren't going to have any shields. On a light fighter, that's not a huge deal. Those shields pop up in about 3 seconds. If you're in something bigger where some of these ships take up to 6 minutes to charge their shields to full, and there's people waiting there when you drop out of quantum, you got a problem.
Well, I think you've got a major problem potentially how they do this. It's they're saying that as soon as you flip into that I want to get out of here mode, that your shields go offline, your weapons go offline. It does sound like you are able to quickly exceed the SCM speed.
But
from
you
the
can't
looks of it.
boost.
But you can't boost, correct?
Nope, boost is off.
But you at least can, so if you are able to get out of guns range for, 15 or 20 seconds, it might be enough.
Yes.
But if
Assuming
you can't
don't get chased down by missiles.
Sure, because you also can't do countermeasures, they said. So, I mean, this is going to be amazing. Obviously, they'll be tinkering with it. They never get it right on the first try, or the second or the third in a lot of cases. But go ahead.
I think you're the people who drive the larger ships have the bigger problem here, because
I agree completely.
The smaller fighters, if I click off of SCM mode and I go to quantum mode, that's like taking my speed limiter all the way to the top. I mean, I'm able to front line or straight line, and some of these ships can get up to 1400, 1200, 1400 very quickly. Some of your even smaller ships like the Nomad has a very good acceleration rate. It's going to be your cargo ships and your mining ships and a couple other things that you're going, that thing does not move on a dime. A Carrack does not accelerate that
At
fast. And I have a hard time getting my nugget around. If I want to switch over into quantum mode, my Carrack shields just drop. I mean, we'll see it when it comes out, but I don't know if that's really been thought through. I mean, I know what they're talking about with the fighting and the fighters and stuff, but these large ships, I'm just not sure yet.
Well, the flip side
their
of
whole
it,
segment, all of that talk was about fighters.
Yeah, but he also said that, what did he say at the end? We've got over 100 ships in the inventory. And I know, Frack, you and I had some discussion. I think they're just going to paintbrush this thing out because the equation is there. They're going to slap the equation on every ship. And in the alpha mode, they're going to see what happens. And I'm not going to – we can't go as far, I don't think, as hover mode and saying, it's one of those things that's going to go the way of the dodo, because they were pretty clear about it being in Squadron 42, at least for the 8 ships that are there. And some of those ships in Squadron 42 are big ships, so we'll see what happens with it.
well, I think one of the things that you have to keep in mind as we talk about this is that, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, a lot of the big PvP streamers have a outsized influence on some of this.
I was going to say that, Jay. I think how much of this is they want to be able to get their fights in the frame when they're streaming.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is coming from that. Go ahead, Nom. I'm sorry.
No, that's part of it. But honestly, I think let's admit it, it is really easy to disengage from a fight in the game right now. And they're trying to address that issue of how, unless you got somebody just cornered in and you got somebody with a quantum jammer there, it's very hard to stop somebody from really running away.
That'll be true now.
But should it be?
That'll be true with this.
But the problem is that this is it's for a light fighter to, get GTFO is not going to change significantly.
Right.
The mechanics of what you have to do and the step by step will change, but it'll take us all of 3 or 4 hours with the new model to have figured out here's how you exit a fight in a fighter.
If that.
Yeah, if that. I'm just talking worst case.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing for me is going to find out what button I'm going to put that SCM switch on, because it's just another keybind I got to figure out.
Yeah, no, but I don't see that as being the issue. The issue is going to be the bigger ships. And that's, they want these big multi-crew ships. But they're going to make them be sitting ducks. And you're definitely, the days of going down and loading a C2 full of Valerinite are probably gone by yourself, are probably gone when this happens.
Yes.
Well, shouldn't it be? I mean, isn't that kind of beyond expectation to be going around in a C2 solo?
Well, I
without a
completely
care in the
agree.
world?
I am.
Yeah, but a C2 only has 2 people anyway. I mean, why should I have to worry to set turret and set condition alpha every time I want to come out of quantum? I mean,
Well, but the flip side of that is this, as much as I think there's going to be a lot of yelling and screaming and wailing and mashing of teeth over this in the general community, it benefits us a great deal. This feeds into our fighter tactics more so than the fighter tactics of a lot of the PvP streamers. Wouldn't you agree, Frack?
Yes.
This is better for us.
This is going to impact the high-speed decoupled fighting much more than it does the coupled fighting. And it's going to level the playing field a little bit at the bottom end, I think. New pilots, the most common mistake that new pilots make in combat is overspeeding. And this is going to fix that immediately. And so it's going to take that piece of the learning curve away and make them learn, how to fight, because the speeds are going to be forced slower. And I think that all the people who have spent all of the time, including myself, mastering how to fight at really high speeds, that's going to be gone. And so it is going to change that bell curve a little bit. But it doesn't really change what we do significantly. I think we're going to be fine.
Well, not from an air group perspective.
Yeah.
If I could point out real quick, I have to note, if you guys remember the hover mode that flight mechanic change that Turin talked about, it was a complete failure, and so they got rid of it. Remember the landing zones, landing lanes at Loreville and another base?
Those were awful.
It was horrible. They got rid of it. So we're trying something new. We'll see if it works or not. They may tweak it. They may dump it, but we'll figure it out.
I'm going to be honest, though. I see this for us as more as a positive than a negative. I don't, again, we're Atlas Defense Industries. We run, we do this podcast under HangarReady, but let's just be honest. This is a plus for us for 2 reasons. One, this plays into our, for lack of a better term, Wolfpack tactics that we already are teaching, which we were, I don't want to brag, but we definitely have a good group of pilots that are capable of fighting in that space. But the bigger issue is it's going to benefit us on the other side with multi-crew ships, which we're going to get into here in the not too distant future as we start talking about some of these, power relays and things like that. This benefits us because we'll crew ships and we'll put escorts with our heavier ships. We've got the capacity. We've got, 100 people online on a busy Saturday night, and we're all working together versus another bunch of orgs that are our size, bigger and smaller, that can't field 10 or 15. So, teamwork is going to really, if this goes in as they're describing it, teamwork will be critical.
Well, I think it also opens up the gameplay that has been lacking, and that's the snare factor, the mantis, the quantum dampening that they put in there, but you really can't really use it all that much. Well, this gives a really good opportunity for you to use that sort of game mechanic.
Along with the hinting that when they start talking about devices for interceptors, that it could very easily be more than just those 2 ships. It could be every ship that they classify as an interceptor.
Well, and that'll change some of our tactics, but it won't. I don't think this is a negative for us. That's the honest truth. I think this is more of a positive than a negative, as they've described it.
I agree.
Sol, you're on the operations plan. You're on the operations planning side. What are your thoughts on this?
I really do think, in general, it hurts big ships. But for us specifically, the organization aspect we can kind of use to overcome that. I can see them tweaking it in the future to where the shield stays on, but the recharge is disabled. That would be a really easy way to balance it for the larger ships. Like after I saw this, I went and hopped in the Hammerhead, and standard power distribution, it takes 3 minutes for those shields to fully recharge. There's no way you're coming out of quantum into a hostile environment and not being shot at for 3 minutes. It's just not going to happen. If your shield stays up and the recharge is just disabled, that makes this a little bit more believable and a little bit more fun from a gameplay aspect, at least for the majority of the community.
Well, yes, I would say. Hello. Sorry.
Yep, you're here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
we can hear you.
Sorry, I had my mic off, and then
We had tons of technical glitches, but that's not one of them.
anyway, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it gives a reason for, when you pull somebody forcibly out of quantum. Whenever we have interdiction actually working, you got long range scanning, and you're able to target somebody to pull them out of quantum. There's a window there where you're going to be able to hit them. Conversely, that's going to happen. That's going to affect. You can drop out of quantum short of a target, build up your shields, and fly in. So that's just going to change your tactics because that exists.
I think it's going to be the surprise, and I think it's the instant that you get ready to go into this high speed mode, your shields, as they described it, maybe that changes. Hopefully it does. Your shields go to 0 immediately, and all you have to work on is armor.
But it's going to bring in scouting.
Yep.
If you're moving cargo or a convoy, you got to send smaller ships up ahead. All the things we want ultimately.
Yep. I do not see any of this as a negative as they described it, other than, I'm concerned that this is a step too far for the community and as a whole, who have grown accustomed to running around in C2s and Caterpillars by themselves. And they think it's absolutely ridiculous that they need to have crew or people flying escort with them.
I hope CIG can hold to their convictions on this, and they don't cave to that voice.
Well, I think it'll be stronger than the hover complaint, which I think all of us were kind of on board with. The hover was just
Garbage.
awful.
That was valid.
Yep.
That was valid.
And
Yeah.
so, but they were trying to make it harder to land, and right or wrong, it was people screamed about it till they took it out. It didn't last 3 months before it was gone.
Didn't last a patch. I mean, it came out in a patch and it was gone on the next one, as far as I remember.
Yeah, it was
What they were trying to solve. It wasn't wrong to try to solve the problems they were trying to solve. Wasn't necessarily just to make landing hard, but trying to stop people from hovering in ridiculous positions and stuff like that. And there's other ways to do it, but they chose arbitrary things, like you hit this speed or this altitude and suddenly your whole flight model switched.
Yeah.
It was too arbitrary.
Well, it's gone, so thank God. So, Frack,
But I'm saying this doesn't seem arbitrary to me. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think it's arbitrary at all. I think that guy was really,
all
really
in.
serious that he said, this is, I mean, he had his serious face on when he said, this is in Squadron 42.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're not changing it. He said, in fact, I think he used the term locked in. So it's locked in to Squadron 42.
He flat out said, we have worked on this for years. We have failed. We have finally found the solution. They are all in.
Yeah, and
Well,
they don't have time. In my view, they don't have time to go back and build another one.
no. It'll be
it's,
nibbling around the edges. Will be the changes.
So, Frack, what's your final? Oh my gosh, we got to look out for this.
Well, I don't think there is one. I mean, obviously we've talked about the big ship issue where, big ships arriving with no shields that take 7 minutes to recharge is a deal that we can work around with proper, tactics of an org our size. The piece we kind of glossed over, and I know we want to get on to the next segment, but people also need to realize that a big part of this segment of their presentation got into the other thing they've been trying to tackle for several years, which is ship archetypes and separating out the role of a light fighter, a medium fighter, a heavy fighter, an interceptor, which right now they are no different than a light fighter. And I think this same time period where they're implemented these changes is where they're going to start to separate out the characteristics of those types of ships, which is going to let us as an org look at, I'm very interested in they kept throwing in interceptor into this, faster SCM speed, designed to chase down other ships and disable them, interdiction devices that are going to disrupt your quantum control mode. Both offensively and defensively, we need to not ignore or forget that that's coming too, because ships that people are using and that we're using, for ourselves and against us, that there's a shift that's going to happen with that.
I completely agree. I think it's going to be, you're going to flip the table over and everybody's going to have to get used to the new world order.
Yep.
And the people that are ready to do that are going to be the ones that are successful.
Yep. And the one last point is that, they said it's true. Turrets are going to become hugely more effective under this.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You're not going to want to solo hammerheads anymore, especially crude ones. That will be that definitely to me feels like a death sentence.
Yep. And when you look at, the Hurricane and to a slightly lesser degree, the Scorpius and the effectiveness of those ships now, and then you drop, the fighters that they're fighting down to SCM speed, those are going to be scary ships as well. And it'll be interesting to see how they balance that.
Well, and those ships are scary only when you have full crew.
Yes.
So,
well, you're going to need to, because all your relays have got to get looked after and all that kind of stuff. So,
not on a Hurricane.
But those are just
though.
2-seat
on a
heavy
on a
fighters.
Hurricane, well, on a Hammerhead you do. But
No,
No,
Hurricane.
I'm talking about a Hurricane and stuff. I'm talking
Hurricane
about
and Scorpius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, the reason, the point that I'm making is that you'll need to do more multiplayer ships, and those will become very dangerously effective if you let them get in to, dogfighting range, because it's going to be hard to get away from them quick enough.
Well, they've been moving to multiplayer heavy, so not
Yep.
surprising.
I'm excited about it. So, okay. Well, guys, any other comments that we want to make on the new fighter mechanics and flight mechanics that appear to be coming down the pike? Okay.
Looking
Guys,
forward to getting my hands on it.
couple of things here real quick. Do us a favor, like and subscribe to the video. It boosts it up and we'll get some more people watching us. Also, you can reach out to us with questions or comments on our Discord server, discord.hangarready.com, right there on the screen right now, or in chat. We'll be going through and picking some out to answer at the end of the show during the break. So we're going to go to a quick break. I'm going to have Jackie or my wife fix the camera here because I'm a little off center, and and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes and get started on the next segment.
After eating the bear's breakfast, Goldilocks explored their house. She saw 3 chairs and wanted badly to rest her feet. But the first chair she tried was much too small. So she tried the second chair, and it was much too big. But when she tried the third chair, she found that it was just right.
Hey guys, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed our little commercial break right there. I thought it was kind of fun. We got to take a break, do some bio breaks, and do all the other stuff that we needed to do. And now on with the show. Noam, talk to me about all the new ships that are coming out and stuff that they previewed for us.
Well, yeah, they sprung a brand new concept ship sale for the Crusader Spirit, which is a 2-person crew, and it's competitive with competitive with like the Freelancer there and the Cutlass. It's kind of on the same scale. The cargo variant is holds 48 SCU, and you can fit up to a Cyclone just like you can with a Cutlass, and it costs $100, which is also very comparable. Those were the paints for the ship there being shown, and there's three. The cargo one, which is called the C1, the A1 bomber variant, which is, think of it like a baby Hercules, but it carries 10 size 5 bombs. And it's $155. And these prices I'm giving are War Bond. It's a little more, I think it's just a little more expensive, $20 or so if you pay with store credit. 175 with store credit. Okay, so 20 more. And then you have the E1, which is a executive. Kind of think of it along the lines of the Genesis Starliner, just carrying much fewer people. It's basically like executive travel, like a first class travel on an airline, and it's $135. Or you can buy you said the Chairman's Club pack if you're in that for $375 for all three, or $410 if you're not in the Chairman's Club.
Yeah, $370 War
or
Bond. You get all 3 paints too, with the
okay. You do with the War Bond. Okay, cool. Now, if you just like one particular paint and you get one of the ships, you can always just buy one of those paints for $9. But they also sell a 3-pack for 20% off that total. The interesting thing is they have War Bonds available for each one, with or without a paint. They can become preloaded with one of those paints.
That's the Chairman's Club again. Only available the Chairman's
Is
Club.
it?
Yes.
Is it? Okay. I wasn't sure about that. I only recently started seeing those. I didn't know those existed until just recently, because
welcome to the club.
And welcome to the club.
Your top hat and monocle are in the mail.
Yeah. I decided I wanted to get a 600i before the release came out, and it went up a little bit. So here I am. But there's that. What do we want? Who wants to first chime in on the Spirit, what they think of it?
I think it's absolutely wonderful. This is, I like the Crusader style ships. I love my MSR, and I see this as an answer to Cutlasses, but with some really cool features. So I think they look great. And go ahead, Jolly.
Yeah, I'm saying it depends on what ship you want to talk about. The C1, I'm not impressed with. 48 SCU for $100. I mean, okay.
That's the same
same as the Cutlass Black.
Yeah. I'm really not impressed by that one.
But you can get into Ursa in the C1, which you can't get in the Cutlass Black.
The E1, the VIP version, I'm not.
No.
Hold on.
You can't get an Ursa in it.
What do you? No, we don't know yet.
You can get an Ursa in the C1.
The C1, you can get a Cyclone. They said during the
Ursa was in the late ship coming up next.
Yeah, the C1 can carry a Cyclone. They did say that.
Maybe I was wrong.
That's the max of it for that.
We'll have to keep in mind this is just concept art. We'll have to wait and see what how big they make it.
And it'll probably be next year before we see this earliest.
They increase the SCU on it, but at 48, I don't consider it really a cargo ship. Like Noam said, it's a Cutlass. Now the E1, the VIP transport, I've noticed against that. If you're into that type of gameplay, like the Phoenix and other ships like that, just not my style, but no big deal. Now the A1, I am interested in because I think it's a decent fighter, and the concept of having 10 size 5 bomb, and they're bombs. And I think it help me out, guys. Is it 4 size 4 missiles on it also.
10 size 5.
Yeah, 10
bombs.
size
Oh,
5. Those
missiles.
are bombs. So that's gravity drop. But they also
And
have
then it's got
missiles
some
on it.
size 3 on the wings that are
Size
also
3
gravity
missiles,
drop.
yeah. I thought those were real missiles, Jay, as opposed to the bombs that they said. were those
I
10
thought they said that there were size 5 and size 3 bombs.
No, well, they may be confusing the terminology.
They were
here.
talking about the
I thought
C1.
they have missiles.
the
They have
C2.
real missiles.
The
And they have bombs.
according to their tech specs, Jolly, 2 bespoke bomb racks, 5 size 3 bombs, no missiles that are listed.
So it's just more bombs.
That's what it says.
Yeah, we'll wait and see on that one. Forward firing weapons are
And-
good too. That's not bad at all.
This is
So
a
I think
concept
the
sale, so
A1
it
is
can
probably the best of
change.
the 3. Yeah, big time.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The A1, I think, is going to be a hot seller because of the ability for you to have a light bomber that's a small cruise ship. The ship probably is going to be relatively fast since it's Crusader. And if they hold up like the other Crusader ships have, don't you think, Frack, that this is going to be a...
I support anything that drops bombs. I'd like to see the Gladiator get their bombs. Those are kind of your 2, light bombers, and they're going to absolutely have an important role that's missing right now in the game. For the 3 ships in general, I think they look amazing. I'll just say their concept, prepare for the chunk. But I think the C1 as an alternative to the Cutlass and the Freelancer is great. I think the A1 fills an important role that we need. And with 1 size 2 shield, you would never find me taking a trip on the E1 as a passenger. And they all have that problem of being, basically Cutlass level shielded, but that's a lot of people packed into a very squishy ship.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a Connie Phoenix has got a lot of people packed into a very squishy ship. I mean, what's the difference?
I'd have to look at the Connie shielding now.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that much difference, to be honest with you. I think, I'm not super excited about that game loop. But I definitely see it being used to haul people long distances, or medium-sized distances.
Connie has a single size 3. The E1 has a single size 2.
Sure. But the E1's probably going to be a lot faster and
true.
Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Yep. Bombs, more bombs. Give us all the bombs.
Give us all the bombs. All the bombers we could have. Bombers good. But this will give us a tactical bomber, won't it? When it comes out.
I still think the Gladiator is going to be better. When the Gladiator's done and fixed, I think the Gladiator is going to be better. But
I would say
probably are right.
I would say the A2 is the heavy bomber, A1 the medium bomber, the Gladiator once it works, the light bomber.
The light bomber, yeah.
But a Gladiator is more of a
That means
torpedo boat than the
Yeah,
A2
but-
is going to be drop. I mean,
Gladiator's supposed to be a bomber with bombs.
so they're going to
get bombs.
They're going to get rid of the torpedoes, or is it just going to be a way you
Yes.
can swap them out, or what?
Either, but it's supposed to have bombs. We'll see if that ever comes, because otherwise, I mean, it's built for that. It's actually not a very good platform to be a torpedo delivery system. It'll make a fantastic bomber once they fixed its broken atmospheric flight. But
And given its size, it should be detectable a much shorter range. So that's one advantage it'll have, is you'll have less warning that it's there than, say, the bigger bombers.
yes,
Well, I'm excited. There's any more bombers that we can put into the game that's gonna do some good. And combining this with our last conversation where we were talking about capital ships being scary, I really think that this is going to change a lot of Jumptown-esque missions where we're going to be able to hold ground a lot easier and bomb stuff a lot easier with smaller ships that we can bring in and out quicker. My guess is this thing is as fast as an MSR. Anybody disagree that the A1, C1, E1s are not? That they're probably 1,000 plus, 1,200 plus at boost.
Well, that's all going out the window at this point, though.
Well,
it changes.
Sure. But they will be some of the fastest ships.
You'll have to
out
slow
there.
down and drop your bombs.
All true.
Yep.
But
Mm-hmm.
they will still be fast. They'll be as fast as some fighters at SCM, I would bet.
Well,
I
and
mean, you
Turin
look at
made
the
a good
MSR.
Turin made a good point.
In
you
a
know,
straight line.
Yes.
with the new restrictions, you're not going to be able to drop bombs going above SCM. And in the same way, zippy little eclipses that like to come in at 970 meters per second and throw a torpedo in your face aren't going to be able to do that anymore. Going back to segment
Which will
1
be-
real quick.
And
which
you
will be
got to,
great.
you'll have to pick how long it's going to take your everything to get up to speed, because you're going to have to turn it on before you get to the target.
That's
Well,
going to
you
make
guys-
stealth that much more important too.
Yep.
So you guys,
Stealth matters. No, I was going to
so
say, you're right about the detection range when it comes to the Gladiator once it drops bombs. Same holds true. The A1 may have a farther detection range than the A2. Don't know, but once
I
again,
doubt it.
Light of the Bomber. I'm sure they're there yet, Jay. To be honest, but I think that may be the final game plan. Is size of your ship does matter, detection range. So when the game is finished, it might cross section exactly. So that comes into play.
So everyone on chat, go ahead and toss out your questions about the new ships. Also, remember to like and subscribe while we do that. Let's move on, and I think let's just go around the table here. I'm thumbs up on the Crusader's Spirit. Jolly, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this
Thumbs up,
A1,
thumbs down.
Yes, A1 is good. C1, no, not really. E1, just not a gameplay, so I have no opinion.
Okay. Nom?
I'm thumbs up on it. I think the C1 could be a suitable for people who like to use a cutlass as an all-rounder, as their go-to all-rounder. I could see a C1 being that instead if they just don't like the Drake style.
That would be me.
I mean, it's nice to have a variety of bomber sizes, so I'm all for that. And we don't know enough about the niche that the E1's going to go into with E1, the Genesis, Phoenix. What gameplay is going to make use of that? It's going to be a long time before we see any of that in the
I
gameplay
agree.
that uses that.
Frack, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs up. I don't think any of them really are going to be massive game changers, but they look great like all Crusader ships do, and I think they give good alternatives to similar ships in each class. So yeah, nothing wrong with it.
Okay. Turn, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Well, I'm a proud owner of the Spirit alphabet of ships, so that's all you need to know.
All three.
I like it. I mean, I'm looking forward to the passenger gameplay. As many, if you've tuned in over the years we've been doing this, I'm a big ship driver. I'm a passenger liner cargo. It does give a great alternative to the Cutlass or the Freelancer if you want to look at it. And I think the bomber is going to be a game changer.
So I'm going to go to Soul Hawk here for the final word on this, and then I got one little comment, and then we'll move on. Soul, what are your thoughts? Thumbs up, thumbs down on the...
Thumbs up. I definitely like them from a look standpoint. They're fantastic. From a practicality standpoint, they all seem to do what they want. So I'd say solid ship.
Okay. So here's my one comment. CIG missed the mark. They should have had a fourth variant called the Spirit M1, which would be a Crusader dropship. That would have been a perfect. They missed the mark. They could have taken the cargo space, dropped in seating and weapons lockers on each side where the cargo space is, and boom, bada bing, had another dropship in the mix with very little work.
Well, I'm sure our Marines would love traveling on the E.
Can't carry enough. But I think they missed the boat. I think they missed.
Just pack some crayons will be good to go, man.
They missed the boat on it. They could have easily created an
Well,
M1.
they did, Jay. They did say that. I heard the word module mentioned several times.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility in the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. Let's talk about the Drake Corsair. Nom. I'm sure you're more excited about this than I am.
I'm not real. I've never really been big on this ship, but it looks like
Well,
it could be
I mean,
useful.
it
It's a
is
bit
an
of a weird
exploration ship.
design. Yeah, on the actual what it serves, the stats it has, it could be useful. I just don't like this general style, those weird wings going out. But it's very close to completion. Not they never would. They don't answer when, but there's every indication it will come out with. Can you hear me? Man, can you?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. My headset did something weird. There's a 318. Most likely, we're getting it because they said it's going to come out at IAE. It may just be on display in the showroom, or it may be flyable or in a 318.x patch. It's a 4-crew, heavily armed for the class. No, I'm not going to say punches above its weight. Designed for long. Okay, so basically it's a more of a long range, self-sufficient. I guess you'd think of it like a Firefly, from the series, and it has that weird design like you saw in the video there, where the co-pilot goes in underneath the pilot, kind of separated like that. I don't know how well that'll work. And turrets do have a wide field of fire because they extend out to the sides, kind of similar to what other ships do that? Well, of course, the Hammerhead and the others. They have the
Carrack.
turrets that gimbal out to the side. The Carrack, yes, Carrack's a good example of that. And as other ships in this class, you can fit up to an Ursa in it because it's mostly comparable to a Constellation or what else is in that size. I don't know if an MSR is a good comparison.
MSR's in that
maybe.
size.
Yeah.
Even though that's not an exploration ship,
but I've never really been too big on the Corsair, mainly because I just kind of wondered the weird design. I thought the design was weird, but who's hyped for this one?
I think there's a lot of people in the community that have been looking for this ship to come out. I think
the aesthetic
and the weapons. I mean, every time people talk about it, it's packing a lot of weapons. It was filling something that the Carrack was missing, which was the pilot not being able to control, forward firing weapon systems, which the Corsair definitely does. I thought before we got to before the power play segment, where the multi-crew is going to be, something you've really got to plan out. I thought, the Corsair people were thinking that could be my solo exploration ship. I'm not so sure now that you want to go that route in a Drake, but I think it's not as anticipated as the Carrack was, but there is a Corsair community out there that's waiting for it to come out.
I'm not big on this ship. I think there's better exploration ships in this space.
I mean, this is just an exploration ship. Did you have more guns strapped on it? That's all this is.
Did you hear the word exploration? I mean, they didn't go over any of they said at the beginning, but did you see any exploration platform?
No.
When they walked them through the ship, I'm not so sure it's got a real exploration mission.
There really real scanning stations or anything like that, like you find even in a 600 Explorer?
Not unless they were sitting around the table, which they stole from the Caterpillar. And put it in the mess deck. So the guy made it sound like it was some fancy. I'm like, that's the same thing in the Caterpillar, dude. But I didn't see any exploration station like you see in the 600i, like you see in the Carrack, like you even see in the Terrapin. I'm absolutely jolly, like you see in the Terrapin. I didn't see anything extra, that would say exploration in this. Because the co-pilot underneath looked like he operated the turret underneath. That's really what it really was for him,
Or does he do double duty as a scanning operator?
This is exploration, as in we have to find the other ships to destroy.
Yeah, they needed a license from the Empire to make a bigger ship. That's what it was. Oh, it's exploring. Honestly, it is.
Somebody's phone just went off.
Yeah, mine did.
Last but definitely not least, let's talk about the new racing buggy thing. What's going on with this, Mom?
I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the PTV. I mean, it's just it's got character to it. I know some people don't care for it, but I love it. And this is basically an upsized, kind of a Jeep-sized version of the PTV called the STV. And it's gone straight to drivable. It dropped to the store and in game as soon as the video ended today. It's $35 war bond or $40 if you use store credit. The main difference is you see the wheels are bigger, and it has space in the back for where you can put two of the hand carryable crates. Which, if you want to think about that, that's two which hold roughly about the same as a heavy backpack. So you could just buy the two empty crates at the cargo bay, slap those in there, and you kind of got yourself a little storage in the back of this thing. As to how useful it is, I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll matter more when you can shoot from the passenger seat. There's a lot of what ifs here, but it's a different vehicle. They can have a little more variety for the Daymar Rally and stuff like that. Is what I think it comes down to. Which this thing coming out may even explain why they screwed with the vehicle speeds earlier this week, and everybody's real happy about that.
I think the vehicle speeds were way too high to begin with, but that's just me.
I would.
That's because you hit stuff when you drive.
With the current vehicle
when do I drive?
Driving model right now, it's hard to control it. And then they teased one more variant called the UTV. U is for utility, and what all that will do is hard to say, but who knows? Maybe it'll have more storage and more equipment you can mount onto it.
I'm going to be honest with you. It looks like a mule competitor that it looked like a 2-seat with a cargo bed in the back, just big enough to hold a 1 SCU cargo container. That would be my
this won't even hold 1 SCU though. It'll hold two
bad
carryable.
No. I'm talking about the little.
He's talking about the
other one that they announced.
The UTV.
Oh, the other one.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
The UTV.
It looks like
UTV.
a big gator.
You may be right. Yes.
Yeah.
Looks like a big
So
gator.
you're right. That may well be a mule competitor.
I'm going to be honest. That was the most interesting vehicle I saw out of the ground vehicle stuff they showed today. Was that it's like, the ability to go do bunkers where I can land 2 kilometers away, pull one of these little things out, and have a 1 SCU crate in the back and one buddy sitting in the passenger seat, and off to the races we go.
You know where you're going to see that?
Keep in mind in the future. Sorry.
I was going to say, where you're going to see that ship? It's going to be on Lorville. There's going to be a guy going around with something picking up trash from Hurston, because it looks like the dude in my homeowners is just going to be driving up and picking up trash and throwing it in the back. That's all.
I completely agree.
Yeah, it could be useful for that, for because right now you can't land near. It's a lot harder to having to park 1,000 meters out from an outpost because of the turrets. I mean, vehicles have more of a purpose now, and this is more accessible.
I think the bigger issue there is the turrets are shooting through the terrain.
I haven't encountered that too much, honestly.
Oh yeah, I haven't tried it.
I'll park behind trees and I'm fine.
But now the STV, if you strapped a crew serve weapon or a remote turret on the top of that thing, I think it could be very, very useful. I mean, you get a little rack patrol vibe when you're watching it and going through, but I don't know. I mean, I was watching our chat today, and somebody said, "Hey, that's really great that you can put these 2 things in the back, and you got all this kind of stuff, but it's open. Somebody while you're loading, your drugs in the back, somebody's hopping in the front and driving off. So it's going to be, carjack citizen or something like that. So." I don't know if it's going to be all that useful. Now the driving characteristics, though, it's definitely looks like it handles better, which is a real positive. So
I will say, did anybody watch the race? Show of hands who watched the race after the CitizenCon. Well, myself and the Munchkin here, who we're going to show a picture of real quick. Wave. Anyhow, she is absolutely enamored with this racing vehicle, and but I watched the little rally with her at the end, and and she's got to learn to be quiet when she's not being pointed at. Anyhow, at the end, only like 4 or 5 out of 45 or
Yeah.
6 out of 45 people completed the race. I mean, it's something ridiculous.
Well,
So
the
it's
whole
too
vehicle
squishy.
driving is a mess right now. They got the handling needs to be greatly improved. They need to not blow up from bumping up against a plant.
I was going to say those cactuses are deadly. So,
And they look like something you could crawl over, but nope, you die.
No.
So I think that's any other comments
real quick,
on
the STV, I believe, in my opinion, is an absolutely magnificent LTI marker.
Oh yes. How expensive is it?
$25.
35.
35.
35. Yep.
Still a great LTI
Still good.
marker.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely if you're wanting to convert something to, if you have a ship that is going to come out in November sale and you want to get it with LTI, $35, you're not going to be able to beat that for a marker.
Nope.
Great
Nope.
marker.
So it's buy as many of them as you can. And do you have to buy them war bond, or can you get LTI on them?
40 for 40. Oh no, you have to buy war bond to get LTI.
To get the LTI.
Yeah.
Really? They
Yep.
used not to do that. They used to
Because
offer
it's-
it.
No, that's been that way for a while.
That's
man.
because it's straight to
Long time now.
drivable.
That 2 years
Ah.
ago now?
2 years ago that they've done that.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
I think so.
But that's a good way to upgrade ships. If you have let's say you have a MSR that you love, but you only have 6 months insurance on it, it'd be an easy way to convert it to LTI.
Melt that one and use this as a token to get it back.
Okay. Any other comments on the ground vehicles or any of the new ships? We're right at 30 minutes, guys. With that said, guys, like and subscribe. Again, throw your questions and comments out into chat on either Discord or on YouTube, and we'll highlight them. And at the end of the show, we'll go through your questions and comments and give our peanut gallery opinions on them. So see you in a minute. We'll be right back with another break after this break.
At Crusader Industries, we believe that our values are more than a standard of behavior. They're our legacy and our inspiration. We don't defend them through sheer size or firepower alone. We ally ourselves with those who share our core beliefs. We make sure the real heroes make it to where they're needed most. At Crusader Industries, we know that lifting up others benefits us all.
Hey everyone, Jose here. Star Citizen-based stream.
And welcome back. Hopefully you've been throwing some really good questions out in chat while we were away. We've got one last segment that we're going to do tonight about power systems and power management. And then we're going to call it, and we're going to have a big show that we're going to finish up the rest of this week from tonight. So I have the power play segment, which was talking about resource management that tied into multi-crewed ships, outposts, and things like that. I'm going to be honest, guys. This really excited me a lot to see kind of how they're thinking about it. And there are definitely going to be some logistical problems that come from this that I'm excited about. I think that this is going to be where an organized large group of people can shine. So there's definitely questions about what will and won't happen and how it will or won't work. But I find it exceedingly interesting that you can do things like assign turret gunner duties to one of, as the captain of a ship or owner, whatever it is, assign turret gunner duties to certain crew and then allow engineering roles for other crew. So I'm super excited. Soulhawk, I know you have some concerns in our S3 section about how this is going to work and the limitations, but what are your thoughts?
I like the concept. My concerns mostly stem from they talked about the captain assigning roles, and then those roles having different permissions on the ship. Like you assign your engineer, he has access to the engineering console, the pilot might not. And while that's great from a security standpoint, from a redundancy standpoint in running ships, say your engineer is, taking a bio break, all of a sudden your ship's being shot at, you need to start moving power around, engineer's gone, you can't do that. So depending on how flexible that lockout system is for the roles, this could be problematic or it could just be perfect.
I'm going to say my guess is that they will have a role that gives people access to everything. And I see this more as the ability to limit what things people can do, so that if you bring somebody aboard and they're really just a turret gunner, this will allow you to lock them out of engineering console stuff. And my guess is that trusted players like your pilot and your engineer and, maybe a couple of your gunners you give them unfeathered access to the systems. And it's just people that you're not so sure of that you limit their roles would be how I would do it.
You're right, Jay. A lot of us, bear in mind, we're in an organization, so we think about the org members. And as Saul said, look, I'd give everybody the full access to whatever the hell you need to do. But over 90% of those who back Star Citizen are not in an organization. And you may have a get-together of 5 or 6 people, and that pilot, that captain of that ship, he may want to restrict people to do one thing or another for the security reasons that Saul pointed out.
I completely agree. I think that this is a good thing and that it will help. It would make me more comfortable with some players being able to lock their access to some consoles until I was sure that they're competent and capable of utilizing those features. Frack, from a fleet security perspective, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree. I do think we take for granted that we're going to just crew our ships with our own people, and we would not want to restrict access to our members. But I think this type of system built in is necessary for the majority of the players of the game.
I think it's necessary for us. Turing, what are your thoughts?
I look forward to seeing how it's going to actually play. I'm concerned with they say captain. I think it's going to have to come down to the ship owner assigning those roles.
I think in their minds, captain and ship owner are one and the same.
But that's not what we look at it as, and I don't think that's what a lot of big organizations are going to look at it as. But that's just going to have to be a discussion that we have when it comes down to that. I do like the ability to be able to, lock out, certain things. You're doing a transport mission, for example, you're picking up somebody, you lock them out so they can't do jack on board your ship. You have a pickup, you, for whatever reason, you found 2 other people down at a location, you want to go and do something together, just like Jolly was saying, the majority of people don't belong to a big organization, or even if they do, they may not be playing when their people are on at the same time. It does allow you to get a little bit more social out of the game, and utilize folks that you know, on a pickup basis. And so from that standpoint, I think it's going to be great. I'm not sure going forward how we're going to be able to train to it. It's good. It's a TBD on that one, but I think it'll be good when to be able to assign roles in the ship.
I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a big help and a big step forward. Nom, you are in charge of exploration and survey, and can you see advantages to this, or you think
absolutely
in your
I
environment?
This.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Turn my mic on. I considered this pretty much inevitable and needed. It was something we were always going to have for various things. Just think of the Banu Merchantman. This kind of functionality was going to have to be there anyway, where you had granular control to give people specific accesses. Think of it like, in the IT world, where an administrator, network admin gives a person admin rights on a particular computer. That's akin to the owner of the ship is going to give captain's rights to someone to be the captain of a ship. And then that captain can then dole out permissions to be a turret gunner, permission to run the engineering systems. This is necessary for a lot of the gameplay we've been expecting for a lot of the different ships, like the BMM, which is very specific, where you're able to grant very limited access to a visitor who shouldn't have access to any of those things. It's just but it's definitely going to affect exploration that way, where it's all trust based. And but like Jolly said, a lot of people are going to be having guests on their ship that there's not in their org. They might have it's a pickup group that they got at the station, and but you can't trust people right now, because any one of them could be a jerk who's going to run into the captain's seat and self-destruct the ship. So This was just inevitable. It had to happen.
So there's another potential use case for this, and it depends on how it populates the crew list for you to assign roles from. If it just pulls names of people on the ship, you'd be able to know, like, hey, these people are on my ship. There's this other name that's popping up on this list. He's not supposed to be there. So depending on how they populate that list, it may immediately sell out people who are trying to sabotage you.
It could, if they're on your sensors. Frack, how do you see this? What are the things that you see using this for combat ships, big ships? Do you think we're going to probably go to venting before combat? Potentially?
Potentially, yes.
You see us turning down gravity, safe power?
Yes.
So that we can move faster and jump farther?
Yes, all those things.
What else?
Yeah,
what other kind
even
of
environmental? They talk about the importance of the environmental system. Well, if everybody's in a suit, depending on what they do with oxygen levels of suits and all of that, the ability to shift power around and shut down sections of the ship, coming into battle that aren't necessary for combat, to be able to, push that electricity somewhere else. It's actually pretty fascinating, the options that could be there depending on how they implement it.
I see other things, like if you're under attack and you think you're about to be boarded, shutting down gravity and shutting down oxygen in certain parts of the ship, and heat potentially, or cold, whatever works best, could be a hazard to anybody trying to get aboard your ship and cause trouble.
Could certainly slow them down.
Yep. Every minute counts. Turn, what are your thoughts on using this, and what kind of gameplay, combat gameplay and non-combat gameplay do you see coming from this?
I think it just takes it up to another notch. I think it just takes up the excitement that you're going to have during the combat, situation, where you, just like what you said, you're going to have to manage the power on your ship. The venting, going into combat, everybody puts their suits on, you vent it out. That way, you don't have rapid decompressions that potentially might happen. So there's all kinds of things you can do with that. And from a non-combat standpoint, there are a couple of ships that you get on and you have to pass through another space before you can get to other, vital spaces in the ship. Possibly, shut down the life support in that area, and you could potentially trap somebody that is trying to sneak on.
Well, and I would go further than that. My concern is, if they try to keep us out of flight suits and space suits with helmets, I don't see how you ever want to go into combat knowingly without having a suit on.
At least an undersuit and a helmet.
Yeah. And, I just
Put
don't see
a couple of oxygen pens on you.
Yep. And whatever, or a small vest or jacket or whatever.
No, our basic utility uniform. Yep.
Yeah. I just don't see us ever going into combat once this goes into effect, because the risk of fire and stuff means decompressing ahead of time seems like the logical choice before you're going into combat. As we sit here today with what little we know about it, right? But definitely from what they showed us, you empty the room of oxygen, the fire stops. Well, if there's no oxygen in there to begin with, the fire doesn't start. It seems like you would want to decompress as much of the ship as you possibly could on a multi-crew ship before you started taking damage.
Yeah, with the potential exception of your medical bays and things of that nature, you may have to be selective about it. But for the most part.
And it should hopefully improve your life support survival as far as the usage. Unless there's loss whenever you pressurize the space.
Now that brings up a good point, Nam. Did anybody catch the fact that you got a consumable that has to go into your life support system that you've got to change out? Probably carbon scrubbers or something like that. Oh my God, the drinking and eating mechanic is already bad enough. You're gonna be changing out your carbon scrubbers every time you get ready to go anywhere.
Imagine having a fully populated Cuddy Steel. You've got life support for 10 minutes.
I mean, roll the segment from Apollo 13. He's on Daymar, and all they've got is a box of this, and this is what. Oh my God.
Well, the flip side of that is if you're at a big cargo craft that you're loading, you probably have time to do the checklist before you take off.
Yeah.
Oh, the engineer's number one thing on the top of the list: check the scrubbers. Okay, before we go. We can't all get hypoxic halfway to Hurston.
Make
and
sure
nobody sells them in pyro.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in true Star Citizen fashion, you can only get size 2 wherever you're going.
If you need size 3, got to go all the way back to New Babbage.
Yeah. They need a crafting system or something. I don't know.
You're gonna need the engineer to go down and look through the boxes of spare parts to make sure he's got enough scrubbers there to take care of you for your 2-day trip to Pyro.
I was not looking forward when he said that. I'm like, oh, seriously? Oh, wow.
I'm kind of looking forward to it. I mean, one, the ability to have boxes that everybody can interact with makes handing out weapons and uniforms and things easier for events and teamwork exercises. And I'm hopeful, as we look towards that, I think that they're going to give us personal hangars or personal spaces where we can invite party members into. And the instant that they do that, we'll start hoarding weapons and gear and everything and having it where people can come in and get stuff that they need. I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be exciting.
That got personal hangars. They got pushed to past 318, didn't they?
They did, but the ability to get physicalized cargo containers and put guns and armor in it in the back of a ship is great, because what I can do is I can go in, let's say I'm, one of the people handing stuff out. I can go in and pre-set up weapons and armor containers, have the AI or me load them onto a ship, have org members come in, grab the stuff they need, and then take those cargo containers, unload them off the ship, and store them back on the station.
We do that to a certain extent right now with the food and drink consumables, med pens, and things like that.
But
We
it'd be
used to
a
have
lot
we used to
easier.
have a case sitting in the back of the ship for people.
Sure, but think about if we could take a 2 SCU container with machine gun, FS9s, and another 2U or 2 SCU container with ADI armor, drop it in the back of an MSR for 10 minutes, let everybody that needs to get stuff out of it get it out, and then offload that and then go to do bunkers.
But I would even take it one step further. Why would I need to go to an MSR? Why not having a warehouse, say in New Babbage or Orville or Orison, where you just come through and you just, your quartermaster just sits here and just hands out the stuff as you go down the line. Hey, MSR's at the end of the road, buddy. Get on board and we're out of here.
Yep. No, I'm in complete agreement long term. I'm talking about as the initial step before they give us private hangars.
You can do it now. You just can't buy the two SCU box. If you could do that, you could do it now.
But being able to buy the 2 SCU boxes, I'm looking forward to. 1 SCU or 2
you can
SCU
actually do
boxes.
supply drops then. You can even, like, if you got a protracted fight going on, something akin to siege going on, they don't have to go resupply. The ship can just fly in and
kick off a couple of little crates with the tractor beam gun.
Crate in and fly out.
Yeah. No. Well, in all fairness, we've done that once before at Jumptown, where we had people come in with the little itty bitty quarter SCU crates or whatever they are, and I'm sorry, what? 1/8?
About 1/8.
Yeah. 1/8, yeah, and kick 1 or 2 of them off with ammo and food and water and tractor beam guns. Never can have enough tractor beam guns, can you, Frank? Or Frack?
Right.
You just can never have enough. So, I think we have covered this. Is there anything in here that we haven't covered that we should, guys?
Yeah, the only thing I'd point out, the biggest thing about the power play thing, and all the comments were accurate, is now we actually have an engineer career field, which is nice to see.
Mm-hmm. So of course, the downside is this was all teasing stuff they're not expecting us to get until 4.0.
Yep.
So that's the only sad thing.
I'm interested to
see
how they
next spring.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they'll actually visualize the relay management on the HUDs and MFDs. Because every time you see it now, it's just a stick diagram in a separate screen. So,
yeah, they're not going to do that. They like their pretty pictures. I hope it's not hard to manage 3D model.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they're going to be able to parse that down into something you can actually do it. And I think it's going to be like a mini game type screen. But anyway.
I completely agree. Well, do we want to go through some of these questions real quick before we wrap up the show?
We owe it to them.
Yeah, we owe it to them. Yep. Let's do it.
So, Jacqueline, we're good? Okay. Arafon says, I bet it didn't cost nearly as much as most people think it did. He's talking, I believe, about the new set.
Yeah.
Yep, the Connie Phoenix set.
I agree. It probably didn't.
Where was that?
That's the Connie set?
That's where they were sitting at. That's where they were sitting at.
I know, but where is it?
It's in. I
think it's
London.
LA.
No,
Was
London.
London?
LA?
Yeah,
No, it has to be in Manchester.
Well, Manchester. Excuse me, Manchester. England is what I meant. It's definitely in Manchester.
Yeah, they moved all that there.
Okay.
So they were drinking vodka, not water. My bad. I assumed it was water.
Okay, sorry about that. We just noticed a technical issue. Let's go here. Sean asks us, would this allow a more stealthy exit from Quantum? I personally haven't tested it, but I saw videos where shields make the ship most visible. I mean, shields definitely add to your visibility, right, Frack?
Yes, still do. Not as much as before they broke stealth and emissions in general, but shields do still affect your detection range. So hypothetically, coming out of Quantum with your shields down with the new system, you probably land with a lower signature.
Yep. So coming out would be better, but I think coming out early would be the way to do it. I don't think you want to jump onto a target anymore. Nom, what were your thoughts?
I think they need that comes to mind. This is going to be where feedback on this is going to come in. The solution there is to give us better fine control over where we drop out of Quantum. Like maybe you can set, like, instead of dropping out 20 kilometers short of a target, I want to drop out 100. Being able to set that without having to carefully timing. Holding down
waypoints would be so nice.
Waypoints. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Waypoints, coordinates, the ability to program coordinates in your computer.
That's what I was going to say. You drop 30 to 40 kilometers out, but just like they're doing now when you go to the Lagrange stations, you don't go all the way to the Lagrange station. You're dropping out at that 32 thousand away, so. But
the distance you drop out is going to greatly depend on what you're flying in, because you're going to have to plan for how long it takes you to regenerate your shields when you drop out, and you don't want to be detected while you're doing that.
Completely agree. It's going to be fun. Here's the thing I'm hoping for. I'm hoping this leads to a coordinate system where we could share waypoints. Mm-hmm. Some ability for me to be able to give you a coordinate that gets you where I need you to be.
And doesn't crash you into the planet. Yes.
Party jumping is scary, scary, scary. War Ashes asks, you could also think of it like Star Trek. While in warp, you have no shields. And when you drop out of warp, you get shields up. I agree. The only difference here is it takes 6 minutes for shields to build on a Carrack, potentially. So that's the only big difference I see with it.
Is that with putting all power to shields?
I think it's
that speeds
2.5, 3 minutes.
It does.
Sohawk looked at this. So what was the numbers again?
I looked at it in a Hammerhead, and at 100% allocation, it was like a minute and a half. And then at the standard allocation, it was, I want to say, around 2.5 minutes. Might have been 3.
2.5 minutes without full shields is scary.
Oh yeah.
3 minutes 47 seconds at 33%
That's
allocation.
terrifying in a combat ship.
Minute and a half at 100%.
Well, but I mean, the flip side of that is if you drop out 30 kilometers outside your target, you should be at full shields before you make it to the target, right?
Oh yeah, dropping out early is going to be the major workaround for this.
Yep. Hopefully they make it easier for us to do that. So,
like preset your distances. That would be nice, and like you say, coordinates. But
Edgar, this would not be Edgar. This would be Jonesy. Bombers matter very little when hostiles sitting inside a hab is immune to the bombs. I agree, but being stuck inside the hab and having habs that have multiple entry points are going to solve a lot of that. I think 2 years from now, well before we get to go live, the single point of entry structures are going to largely go away. What do you think, Jolly?
Yeah, I think they're going to improve the buildings themselves. But bear in mind, there may be some leftovers. They'll still be around there, but I think they'll change it around. But Josie's bringing up a good point. Right now, I'm inside the bunker. I'm immune. You can't blow up these bunkers. I think that may partially due to the fact that bunker, and we're talking about Juptown, for example, it's part of the game. In other words, if I were to blow up that bunker, that entire surface is dead for that mission. So I have to make it immune, and people inside it immune if they want to. So I understand that. But I think, for example, a player-made hab can be blown up by an A2 or A1, a bomb of some sort. I think that's what's going to be in the future.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about people hiding in there as long as you have multiple ingress and egress positions. I'm not so concerned about dropping a bomb and killing everybody in the building. I would hope they don't do that. But I'm all for having 2 or 3 ways into a building and not having to sit in an airlock where you're shooting fish in a barrel.
I may not even have to go into your building. I might be able to turn off your power and from the outside and just vent you right on out.
Yep. Or run in and hack the system and shut down all the life support for the entire bunker.
And there's a lot to be said for, shoving everybody back into a building and you're doing a bombing run while you're really inserting, a ground force behind that of some sort. Right. So there's ways to get around. There
are definitely orgs that are practicing that technique as we speak, aren't there? Not that I'm going to name any of them, or the one that we know is doing it. Nam, what are your thoughts on this? You know, I think they're going to solve this problem that Jonesy's complaining about, don't you?
I'm not exactly sure how they'll solve it. I'm sure they've got some ideas. I do remember when they were talking about Jumptown, one of the either Star Citizen Live or Inside Star Citizen, they were going to add multiple points of ingress into like Jumptown, which I think this is where this was a primary problem. So they'll eliminate that one choke point, the main doorway. So there'll be multiple ways into it, is the idea I heard.
I completely agree.
So.
Okay. Thea says he's intrigued by the asymmetrical design, but he doesn't like the Drake aesthetic very much. Show of hands. Who agrees completely with Theus's opinion of the Corsair? Don't like the aesthetic, or you like the asymmetrical, but you're not a big Drake guy.
I don't care about looks.
No.
I care about stats. I care about S1, S2, S3, stuff like that. I really don't care what it looks like.
I care a little bit, but I'm not a big Drake fan.
Jolly's flying a
My main
brick in
problem-
space, so it doesn't matter.
Yep. My main problem with the design is that those wings seem to me like going to be vulnerable. They just increase the target, and what are the consequences of one or more of them being shot off because they're so exposed?
Yeah, can you see around them with the turret? I mean, you know.
That's a question. Are those wings might also? Somebody mentioned earlier somebody mentioned earlier about the potentially impacting the turret's field of view. So
I'm kind of the opposite. I like the Drake aesthetic because it's a Drake ship, but I'm not too sold on the different asymmetrical thing of it. I really think it's more for flash.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree. Warash asks, we have zero gravity in the section where the enemy is. Then if they're in the air, turn on gravity so they fall down and shoot fish in a barrel.
I could smash them to his deck.
I mean, in all honesty, that is a very, plague with their environmental controls on the fly back at an engineering console to help your security force repel or secure the ship. To me, that sounds like a very good tactical thing to do. What do you think, Frack?
Off, on, off, on, off, on.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm this, the bouncing pinata pinball machine, and at the same time, your pilot's just diving and pulling back, diving and pulling back.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be it will be something about you're standing outside a compartment and your security guy says calls back to the engineer, hey, can we vent compartment so and so.
Yep.
I mean that's
hey, they're at such and such junction. Can we vent everything to, between here and there? Yeah,
But I think turning the gravity off, being able to turn that gravity off, it would be, think of the hammerhead, for example. If I'm able to scoot down that long corridor, if I need to get to the back versus having to run down it, I don't know. I mean, that might be pretty good.
My only concern there is force reactions in 0G. What is that going to look like?
Well, that could be a great defense too. I mean, think about it. I mean, you turn off gravity in the cargo bay and then do a bunch of barrel rolls when all that unsecured cargo is floating around, and just beat them to death with boxes.
No defense force needed. Everybody strap in. Here we go for a ride.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard the vomit comet. Here we go.
Can you imagine floating through the big hallway in the hammerhead, and all of a sudden you're going boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, now I live in fear when I hear over my headset with Frack saying, set vomit comet, set vomit comet.
Well, the sad thing is that they probably would roll around enough that you might be on the vomit comet. Okay. John asks us, Who is the ADI quartermaster? Well, the money guy is Turret. So
10s and 20s.
Slip him a little extra for railguns.
Actually, logistics will handle that stuff, and that's will be in S4. And right now, Soulhawk's responsible for that area, but along with S3. But long term, the money guy is Turret.
But the quartermaster is somebody different. It's actually
it'll be an
planned
S4.
out.
Yeah, it's
Logistics support staff.
That's S4.
Don't need to fill it right now because the game's not live.
Yep.
But yeah, we have designed.
There's no way to store anything.
system.
Yeah.
Yep.
Logistics, resources, it's all one big pot.
Okay. War Ashes asks or says, now I can go, Scotty, I need more power to the engines. I definitely see that getting screamed out and mumbled more than a few times. Rob asks, when is 4.0 coming out? If Voodoo Science tells us sometime next year. Not this year. Anybody, show of hands, does anyone think that we will see 4.0 this year?
Well, this year's almost over, so absolutely not.
Okay. Does anybody think that we will, does anybody think we'll see 4.0 in Q1 of next year?
Unlikely.
Q2. I think we will see 4.0 in Q2.
Nope.
Because I don't think there's going to be a 3.19. I think that they're going to go from 3.18 to 4.
Q3 at the earliest. It's my vote.
Okay. Well,
I would agree.
see.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Maybe PTU and the Q2. Yeah. Sorry.
I think it's safe for us to say nobody at this table thinks we will see it before, at the earliest, late Q2. At the absolute earliest. Mid-June. At the earliest.
Next year's CitizenCon announcement.
I'd feel better if
keep
318
in mind,
had made it out. But
yeah.
Well, but we knew 318.
They've already mentioned. Sorry?
We knew 318 wasn't going to be out before Thanksgiving at the earliest.
Yep.
Let's remember what's going in 4.0. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a lot of stuff.
Remember what's going 4.0. It's not, I mean, there's a
Big
lot
hurdles.
back in there. Big hurdles.
I completely agree.
It's
not going to be tomorrow.
In my mind, it's not before CitizenCon announcement next year. That's going to be the rollout if it comes in 2024 or 2023.
They got to do some patches between now and then.
Oh, I didn't say they're not going to piecemeal stuff, but you said go to 4.0. I don't think 4.0 is before it. Q3 earliest.
Yeah, they've already said in previous, I think, weekly or monthly updates in the notes, they've mentioned 319 is going to be a thing. It's been mentioned in some roadmap updates. 319 is going to be between.
We'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's going to be. I honestly think you guys are probably right. It's probably Q3, Q4 next year. So, Theus asks a hilarious thing. Aaron, can you spot me 200 AUEC?
AUEC? I'll give you all my AUEC. In fact, I can give it to you now because, 318's coming. So,
it's not going to be worth much.
It's not going to be worth anything.
And Halcyon says, yeah, military shields go up fast on the Carrack with full shields. I'm curious to see, you did that test. Was that the top grade military shields on the Hammerhead that you tested there? So
no, I just did I did stock shield since that's what most people are going to be running, at least out of the gate. That's what I left it as.
But I would be curious. 1 second.
But Alcyon's point, I also think mil grade A shields are going to matter more now than they did before.
Well, and that's what I was about to get to before I got distracted like a stupid cat. I think components inside your ship are going to become more and more and more important with this change. What do you think, Frack?
Totally. I mean, you're basically coming out of quantum and going back into SCM mode. It's going to be almost like a ship reboot, and the higher quality components, faster draw, request time, all that's going to matter.
Yep. I think, and it sounds like in the not too distant future, in the next year or two, we're going to have subcomponents where you can go in and change out fuses and other subcomponents to make the military grade A shields even better, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you're able to add some sort of, come back faster or boot up faster on some of these lower component ones too. Maybe you can take an industrial shield and make it generate faster with a component that you maybe can't put on a military, shield, for example.
We'll have to wait and see. Who knows? Well, I think that answers most of the questions that we had. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this show. We're going to go around the room one last time for final thoughts, and then we're going to call it an evening. We will be back a week from today, 8 p.m. ADI time, U.S. Central Time, a week from today to cover the rest of the things from CitizenCon. Jolly, final thoughts.
Yeah, I thought CitizenCon was really good. Keep in mind, they were very focused on the future, very little bit about the present, very little bit about game mechanics, improving stability and stuff like that. Just really features and visualizations, but enjoyable. So it was good overall and didn't last too long, in my opinion.
I think it was a lot better than last year. That was like 10 hours. Numidius, final thoughts.
Like everybody else, I'm a lot of good stuff. Give me a lot of hope for what's coming in 4.0. I like that they mostly stuck to what's real and what's coming. This isn't like past CitizenCons where they show a sandworm you're never going to see in game. This was all stuff we can fully expect to happen, provided they follow through with what they're working on. And it's just exciting times to come.
Oops, sorry. Frack, final thoughts.
I was a little disappointed overall, but I totally recognize that the lack of hype for this, I think is a good thing in the end. I was watching it waiting for if this was live, what's the crowd cheer moment, and it was never there. No big, huge reveals or anything like that. And at the same time, I think it was a much more realistic con in terms of the information that they put out. Obviously all of my attention was drawn to the speed changes because that affects my work directly. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it and getting a feel for what that's going to be like and what we need to adjust, if anything.
Well, I'm sure there'll be changes that we need to make on fleet security side, but I think I honestly see this as a positive, not a negative.
Yep.
Tar?
I agree.
To me, it felt a lot like just a longer version of an Inside Star Citizen, with the segments, which is not a bad thing because they left the theory crafters kind of, back at home station. No Tony Z, none of that kind of stuff this time around. Not that we haven't heard that talk 4 times now or whatever. But I think it was very important for them to talk about things that, and it was clear in my mind when you heard the actual developers and the folks, there's stuff they've been working on for quite some time. So when people say that they haven't been doing anything or haven't been doing this, they clearly have. And it was a more realistic, and it was something that I think the community, even though some of the feedback that was happening during the live chat, everybody was throwing up, hey, where's the Banning Merchant Man? Where's all this kind of stuff? I mean, that's just noise. It's just noise. It was something the community really needed was to focus on really game-changing mechanics that is going to, they're coming, they're going to roll out, and very little fluff. And in the end, I kind of was like Frack when I first was starting watching it. I'm like, okay, so where's the big aha moment? But at the end, the whole thing was kind of the aha, so
I completely agree.
Good on them in the end.
And last but certainly not least, Soulhawk.
It was definitely a low hype CitizenCon, which is just kind of weird seeing anything from them come out that's low hype. Tons of good information in there. Definitely very interesting, if maybe a little dry for most of the community. But overall, I liked what I saw.
I completely agree. I think that this was a more down to earth. There was a lot less scary stuff in this one than there was in the last one, and a lot less theory crafting. So I'm excited. I think that they did a good job. And we got a lot of good information to help us plan for the next year or 2 years. So I think it's safe to say one thing that we have some inside information. I can tell you the amount of new hires at CIG over the last 6 months. It's been the better part of 100 new people they've added. And, they're really ramping up, and almost all of them, my understanding is, are working on Squadron 42. So I think once Squadron 42 gets out the door and they kind of pivot towards getting the PU out the door, it's going to go fairly quickly. Knock on wood. So with that said, we will be back here. Oh, wait, I want to give a shout out to my beautiful producing staff over there. Please like and subscribe.
Yay. You didn't even know I was going to do this.
Anyhow, we will be all back here 1 week from today to finish talking about Pyro, which was super exciting. Some of the stuff we saw in Pyro was amazing. Talking about the new underground, and then talking a little bit about Lorville and some other odds and ends. So we look forward to talking to you guys next week. Please come back. And until then, we'll see you in the verse. Bye.
Night.
Bye.